So today we've got a special guest with us, Karmen Quakenbush, and we're going to talk about lead generation, specifically about working with your sphere and some social media stuff. So welcome, Karmen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell our listeners a little bit about your story, what got you into real estate, and how you got here.
Okay. Yep. So I started selling real estate in Charleston, South Carolina. I used to live there. And I started in the COVID years part-time. After a couple years of that, I ended up relocating back to my hometown, Greensboro. Was going through a difficult divorce and decided it's time to go home and start over. So I got here and just started my business here in 2021.
So you've had to start twice.
Yes.
Most agents start once, and that is tough enough. You've had to start twice. Have you learned anything about the second time you started that you didn't know the first time that helped you do better?
Well, the second time I started, it was sink or swim. I had no salary backing me. I had no other person. I was single. I had my family, though. I would not have been able to do it without my parents. My dad drastically helped me get started because he told me, he was like, I know you'll succeed at anything you do, so I'm going to back you. And fortunately, I started, I had my first sale 2 months after I started my business here. So first contract in about 45 days and then closing. So that was super thankful, super grateful for that. But the second time, I think not having that safety net, kind of, it was sink or swim. There was no, failure wasn't an option.
So what, and talk about the when you were in Charleston and when you're here, was there anything in your business, any kind of turning point you had that you said, hey, we need to focus on lead generating with our social media and our sphere? What was that thing that said, here, I'm going to focus on this?
So in Charleston, I felt like it was just kind of whatever came our way. Versus here, I was actively pursuing it. So I was messaging people. When I moved back, I remember sitting at the office and just going through my phone and calling anyone that knew me from Greensboro, because I had been gone for 10 years. But I grew up here and I went to college here, so I was calling and texting and just saying, hey, like, I'm back in town. I'm starting my real estate business here. Do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell?
How about like on the social media end? So what was that? What was that piece that said, hey, I'm going to start using this because you do so well in that area as well? What was it that said, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start focusing on this?
So that was just to get that reach. So I would document everything. People love real estate. They look on Zillow and Realtor all the time. People love anything about real estate. So whether it was a showing or anything that pertained to real estate, a funny story about something that happened with a client or in a house, I like to put that out on social media. The wins, maybe some of the fails, connections, and I think that helps reach people, and people want to work with those who know what they're doing and are out in the field. So when you showcase that, I think it speaks volumes, and it keeps you top of mind.
Right, absolutely, and it allows you to connect with them as well. So let's take a look at that piece of your business. Let's unpack the social media aspect of your lead generation. So take us kind of through what an average week is with you and your social media marketing.
Yeah, so I post about, showing homes, preparing listings, showcasing my listings. So I do a lot of stories and some reels. I could certainly do more reels. I feel like we always think we can do more,
right.
But I always say it's better to get it done and not make it perfect. So I showcase all of that, keeping in touch with people, messaging, seeing other people win with something in their life and making sure I reach out to them to congratulate them on whatever it may be. But it just really helps. We have these databases of people and we can't call them every single day.
Right.
I think my database is like 200 people. So social media gives a way to be like, oh, when you see a story of somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, congratulations. And it just helps you keep plugged in.
So you're using social media kind of in tandem with your sphere from that standpoint then. Okay.
Yes.
So is there any kind of like specific content that you like to put out there or specific strategy when you're doing this?
I would say I don't think I probably have much strategy in the content piece. There could be more to that, but I just try to be myself. I don't try to be anybody else. I just try to be myself, and hopefully those that follow me and choose to work with me, they know what they're getting. I really always put my clients and people first, and I try to showcase that. So I think I want to be authentic on my social media and also posting about my personal life so people know it's not always about real estate,
Right.
because they connect on a personal level.
Right. So you mentioned being authentic. I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. So can you dive into that a little bit? What does being authentic mean to you, Karmen?
For me, it means if I need to share this story and talk about something that happened in my day, but maybe I don't feel like my makeup's perfect or anything like that, I just have to put that behind me because no one's gonna like judge me.
Right.
We're so hard on ourselves, so it's important just to be out there and this is who I am. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it, I guess.
Gotcha. So you also mentioned kind of tying in your personal and your business together. So is there a balance in that? What does that look like? What would be a good balance for that? You know, because you want to use social media a lot of times from a personal standpoint, and it's always good, like you said, to throw out the personal stuff for the authenticity, but you also want it to be business-wise as well. How does that look like for you?
For me, it looks like I only have one account. I don't have a business account and a personal account. I just have the key is Karmen.
Right.
And that's important to me because I don't have time to juggle two accounts.
Right, yeah.
But it kind of goes into that, sharing personal. And so for me, it's showing my life and, when I got engaged and when I got married again and buying our home and kind of going through that and trips and things. I do think there's a balance because you want to showcase your work and what you're doing and how you're, providing for people. And then, but you don't want to go like too far to where it looks like, oh my gosh, she never works.
Right.
So there's like that balance.
Yeah, sometimes it seems like, I see people on there and it's like, all right, so this person, they're in Tahiti today and they're in the Bahamas and then, they're in the mountains, and does this person ever work? So do you add some of that stuff in there, or do you kind of take it out, or how much do you add? What do you do from that standpoint?
I would say I sometimes just I feel like as realtors, we feel like we can never be off and we deserve vacation just
Agreed.
as much as any
Yep.
salaried employee somewhere that has PTO. So I definitely think, we should showcase that, but I probably don't show like all my off time, but some of that's too because I need to be disconnected from my phone. So I need a break from my phone and be present with my family and friends. So some of that is the reasoning I don't like always showcase like personal life.
Of everything we talk about today, that may have been the wisest statement of the whole thing.
Yes.
Just breaking away from your phone at some point. So how do you measure success with social media? What do you do when you say, okay, this worked or that worked, or it was really hitting this week or whatnot or not? How do you tell?
So for me, there's no like way to, I feel like, in a data standpoint, measure it. But when people reply to my stories or when people say like, oh my gosh, you're doing so well, or you're such an inspiration. I've even had people from like my life in Charleston that are now scattered across the US, and they'll message me, and I hadn't talked to them in years, and they'll say, do you sell in such and such area of North Carolina? Because they follow me on social media. And to me, that's like huge. If someone that I haven't spoken with in years is reaching out because of following me and giving me like a referral.
Absolutely. So, and anybody that's on there, always reach out to Karmen. She's a great referral source for you from that standpoint. Let's flip the switch a little bit and let's talk about your sphere. So, tell me a little bit about your sphere and how you nurture it, and what's your best way of kind of staying connected and nurturing your people that way.
Yeah. So I, when it comes to my marketing, I spend money on my people, and I call them like clients or referral partners. So when I do an event, and I try to do 2 a year, I just had one in April. I include everybody. You don't just have to buy and sell a house with me to be in my sphere and like be a part of my like group. So that's the way I approach it. And repeat that question again.
So like just how, like no, you're good. You're good. So how do you nurture your sphere from that standpoint? You mentioned like your events that you do sometimes, but anything else you may do along the way, like just how you stay in touch?
So I do monthly postcards, and if any of my clients are going to hear this, a lot of people think I write these recipes, and I really wish I did. I do love to cook, and if you do follow me on social media, you'll know that is something I post a lot about, is grilling and cooking. But I send out cards every month that are curated with the help of a company. So I do that, postcards. I do pop buys. So I like to pop by, especially my business partners, my insurance company and like things like that. I do pop buys and bring them goodies every now and then because they send me business and I want to take care of them and appreciate that. And then I do my client events. I know I do other things. One big thing I do that is where I spend my marketing money. I don't buy any leads. I don't spend any money doing that. I spend my money on taking care of my people. So if my friends, for example, the swim team, they need sponsorship for things, I spend money on that.
Right.
Because I believe if I take care of my clients and my sphere, they'll take care of me.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. You mentioned something about your business partners. I don't know. See, a lot of times when we're talking sphere in this industry, in this business, you're thinking about people who may be out there buying or selling a home, or be looking to, or have somebody looking to buy or sell a home. So you mentioned your business partners from that standpoint. Talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people, I think, leave that off when they're adding the sphere into their business.
Well, it's really important to me with my lender that I typically or mostly use, my insurance company, home inspector. I want to love on them and help take care of them because I know they're the best in the business, and that's who I also want my clients to use. I know I can trust them. I know I can pick up the phone and call with any questions. So when it's this relationship where we're both thinking of each other and promoting each other, and we know we can trust them and they're going to take care of our clients, I think that's super important to recognize.
So as I've been out there helping people kind of with the database piece of it, one of the things I find is I don't know who to add from that standpoint. I don't know who to contact from that standpoint. So give us some examples of who would be some of your business partners that you would add in your sphere and go out and try to nurture.
I think it can be anybody. So my dad owns a tire business, so that's important. He's always sharing my business card. He's one of my biggest cheerleaders, and vice versa, when people need tires and whatnot. The local restaurants that I have relationships with, I've used them for catering, for events and things like that, and they have my business cards. I'm trying to think what else. Insurance, my local lender. I know there's others. Any kind of event spaces that I've used. I had a relationship with a former event person at a brewery, and then I did my event there, and she sent me referrals sent. So it's just all about relationship building in this business.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I know you do a lot with your events. So take us through kind of one of your client events and what it's like, and who you invite and that kind of stuff.
So both of them that I've done, so I do in the spring like a huge client event where everybody gets invited. And then I've broken off and done some smaller ones, like I've done some girl nights, like happy hour events and things. So this most recent one, fortunately, my husband is in a band, so I got to utilize that a little bit, and we coordinated along with Gypsy Road Brewing to have my event there. So my husband's band was playing, which this goes into it's not only just a business. When you're working with your clients, they become like family. So they know about Jason and other facets of my life. So I was excited to have my event and be like, oh yeah, my husband's going to be there playing, and it kind of ties it all together. So we did that. And then another good friend of mine, he does trivia. So we had, for the first hour, we were doing music bingo. And my local, or like my business relationships, they donated prizes. So we had some prizes and did the music bingo. I had brought in some food, and then I would do like the first drink on me. So when people come in, I give them a token, and they would get a drink, and we would just hang out. And then in the fall, I do the Thanksgiving pies.
Okay.
And this past year, I did it at my house, my personal house, which was a lot of fun because along with that relationship, everyone knew I had bought a house last year, and they got to see it, which was exciting. And I think it's important to not just be a realtor, but to be a person that people can relate to.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's why we kind of we want to try to showcase people, as everybody's got in their mind, and the consumer base has in their mind what a real estate agent kind of is. It's kind of like, here's the model, and that's kind of our goal, is to kind of showcase, you're so much more than that, and highlight from that standpoint. So when you're at your client event and you're going back and forth and talking, so is there anything specifically, and not just at your client event, but just in general, what's the best way that you do to ask for referrals? How are you out there saying, hey, Tom or Joe or Sandy, do you have anybody that that's going to be buying or selling?
I don't directly ask. My theory has always been, it's obvious what I do. People know what I do.
Right.
When I mail out, little cutesy mailers and things, there'll be like little taglines, like send me referrals, or if you know anyone. But there I just have conversations and just mingle, and it's good because in real estate you spend 60 to 90 days with someone, and you're talking like every day.
Right.
And then closing day comes and it's like you don't talk to them anymore. So it's so great at these events to see people and get to talk to them again, and catch up on life. So I don't spend so much time, directly asking, because my theory is people know what I do, and they know I do it well and that I take care of others. So just staying that top of mind, they'll send me the referrals.
And you absolutely take care of others. Let's transition a little bit more into like the technical, logistical aspect. So in your database, do you segment your database in a specific way?
Like as far as like tiers, or
yeah.
I don't. I haven't done that yet. I know people do, but I tend to just I'm at a place right now with my database size that I can kind of do the same for all.
Right.
So.
Okay. So and then from that standpoint, also, how many touches do you try to do on a annual, monthly, weekly basis? How many? Well, you're trying to touch a person how many times, maybe in a year, to be able to stay in front of them?
So at least once a month.
Okay.
And then around the times I have events, which is spring and fall, they get a mailer invite, which the post office kind of let me down a little bit. But this past year, a lot of people didn't get it. But they get a mailer invite, and then it's on social media. Then I text them the invite as well. So just around those events, there's 3 more. And then you have the event, so it's really 4 kind of touches and communications. And then I make sure I send birthday cards, anniversary, things like that.
Okay. Let's look at your typical week. What does your typical week look like from a lead generation standpoint? I know you're always busy, showing, doing contracts, this, that, and the other on that side of the business. But from the lead generation side of the business, take me through what your week typically looks like. Social media and Sphere.
So it's definitely different depending on the season, and that may not be the best model, but it just is based on having time. But luckily, I do have leverage, and I have help from others when I'm like sending out mailers or whatnot. So for lead generation, especially around the holidays when my business is a little slower, I have more time to message others. But then in the spring market, my lead generation looks like, hey, here's my listing. Do you know anyone looking to buy in Summerfield or whatever it may be? So my lead generation shifts depending on spring market versus like lulls in the year. During the lulls, it can be more intentional and checking in and kind of going through my database. And then when it's spring market and things are much busier, and I'm making sure that my listings get promoted out as a way to keep in touch and a way to promote my listing.
Gotcha. So agents tend to have an issue with consistency. And you may do the same. You may have an issue with consistency as well, based on you were just talking about the season or whatnot.
No.
But what are some of the things you put in place to try to stay as consistent as you can?
So you have to automate some things. So the postcards are automated. I'm not a big emailer. I know some agents are, but I think that can be great. I look at it as I never look at emails other than obviously the real estate, transactional ones.
Right.
So I don't spend time doing that because I don't know, maybe it's my generation. I just feel like we're not quite as email oriented. But I know that can be really great for some people from an automated standpoint. But it's important to put some things that can be done behind the scenes so that way there's always communication going out to stay top of mind, and then you can do other things in between.
Gotcha. Is there one piece of technology or one thing you can't live without from that standpoint to help your business?
As far as the automation?
Yes.
I mean, I think, so I have the mailers automated, but for me it's Instagram. I mean, going in there and popping up a story and going throughout my day. And when you look at those views, I mean, you have so many people viewing and watching, and you'll get replies. So I kind of view that a little bit as automated because it's just on the throughout the day. And I put it out there, and then people see it at their own time when they're on there.
Okay. So brand new agent comes to you and they're wanting to learn, kind of, hey, I want to build my business like Karmen's done. So what is one thing you would tell an agent where to start if they're looking to build their Sphere or their social media game or in tandem like you've done?
You have to talk to people. You have to get out there. So the biggest thing, like I said, when I came and started over here, I went through my phone. I was taking a break from social media at the time because of life, and so I went through my contact list, and anybody, didn't matter how long I hadn't spoken to them, I called them. I didn't text. I gave them a phone call. And then if they didn't answer, I would shoot a text. And then I mailed out cards to people. I started using like that initial time to get addresses. And then I would look up some online because, we can look up where anybody lives. So if I didn't have it, I'd look it up. And I would send cards. In those early days, but a lot of like messaging on Facebook. I got my first listing in North Carolina from a simple Facebook message.
Very cool. So is there anything you learned or that you learned along the way the first time that you added into your business, or is there anything you wish you would have known before? Like those things, something you can add to somebody getting started from that standpoint? From
the first time in Charleston, I think the biggest thing is letting go of that job. You can't, in my opinion, truly dive in. And I know some people don't have that opportunity. I was very fortunate to have my family helping me. But you got to let go of the safety net because I feel like until that pressure's on and you don't know when you're getting paid, it forces you. And I think that's why some agents kind of ride on that roller coaster too, because it's like, oh, you start making money and then you forget about the lead generation. So then you go back down and you're on that coaster. And I still have that maybe a little bit, but it's definitely leveled out in year 4 up here. But I think that's the biggest thing, is not having a safety net. And that first time in Charleston, I still had a job. So it wasn't my full-time. And all of those years, we typically sold just around $3 million. And I feel like if real estate could have been my full and only focus, that would have been drastically different.
Yeah. Again, another great piece of wisdom from that standpoint. We've talked about all this lead generation and stuff and whatnot, but I totally agree with you from the standpoint of you just got to jump off the diving board. I mean, and this business has been turned into a gig business almost, it seems like, in the last 10 years. And, a lot of part-timers and this, that, and the other. But yeah, if you want to succeed in this business, that's the way to do it.
I also think, and I don't want anyone to get angry at me when I say this,
it's okay. We anger people all the time on here.
I think looking back now, but also just in general being in the business so much more than those first 2 years, I feel like you do a disservice to your client when you're trying to juggle multiple things. One, because you're probably not selling as much, which means you don't learn as much of the ins and outs. So negotiating tactics, I can tell a difference when I'm working with an agent that this isn't their full-time thing. So I just think it's like a disservice to your client. And that's something when I meet with people, I let them know, like, this is all I do. Yep. This is my full-time job, is taking care of your real estate needs.
And that's so important, and I think that's really key for people to hear, because yes, and it may be tough for some people. It may be tough. Hey, I can't do that. I financially cannot do this right now. Now, a lot of times they can. They're just scared to take that jump. Yeah. But that is one of the biggest things to understand, is you've got to, if you are doing this part-time right now, you got to get to it full-time as quick as possible.
Yeah. I mean, you make life adjustments. I mean, until I started in North Carolina generating steady commission checks, I was driving an extra vehicle that my parents had, because through my divorce, I also lost my car. So, like, I was driving my mom's car. Like I said, not everybody's in that situation. My parents were very, very helpful. But, you may have to make some life adjustments. So I had no car payment. I was living with my parents. So that's a situational thing that I was fortunate to have. Right. But if you can dive in fully.
I'll be honest with you, and that's another thing that makes agents good and authentic, and just they can be more compassionate, is when you're humbled, and when you're humbled along the way from that standpoint. So is there anything else you just want to share with anybody that we didn't touch?
I think the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to do it, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I had a lot of people help me along the way, because one, I was going through one of the most difficult life situations I'd ever been through, and I was moving back, which was all on a complete whim, and starting over, and I was going to therapy and all these things. And I think the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to make that change, no matter what it is in your life, whether it's a relationship or a career change. You just got to do it, because you'll never know until you try. And I know that's cliche, but it's true. I mean, I look back at how my business has grown, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, if I hadn't tried it, if I had just gone back to what I used to do and was comfortable and steady, like, my life would look so different.
Yeah, totally agree. And we appreciate you, Karmen, and all that you do and all that you've done for us. And thank you for coming on here and talking about this. And if anybody out there is interested in getting in touch with Karmen, maybe you have somebody that you want to refer to the Triad, contact us. We'd love to get you in touch with her. So until next time, you guys take care.